If you're a Cleveland Browns fan looking for a break from the emotional roller coaster that is the price we pay from loving then hating our Browns, then a big welcome to Cleveland Browns Anonymous, a group therapy podcast to help you survive the season. So let's start our meeting. Hi, everybody. This is Mike Riley with my colleague, Browns fan, Brook Riley. Brook, how you doing on this gray late March day?
Doing good. Enjoy these days when they come in.
Well, okay. Now, our last podcast was, I think we were on part 4 of Joe Must Go.
Joe's gone.
And Joe has gone. So why don't you summarize for the people where we are right now?
Well, it's free agency tampering window started Monday, which is for Browns fans, it's like the Super Bowl.
That's that and the draft. Those are our Super Bowls, right?
Yeah. Oh, we just love free agency.
Right.
But no, I mean, since our last podcast, I think Stefanski, the Browns made some good choices. They brought in Jim Schwartz to run the defense, which I love. And they brought in special teams new coordinator. I think his nickname is Bubba.
I like it already, right?
Bubba Ventrone, who's was the special teams guy for the Colts. And their special teams was very good from what I was reading. So
yeah, everywhere this guy goes, he's kind of like Bill Callahan. Everybody gets better. Even the place kicker from one, he takes a guy who failed on the Browns, and he's in the top 5 with Bubba with the Colts. But yeah, you got to take into account they are kicking inside the dome, but still, we've had plenty of.
Well, I think this guy, I mean, no surprise. I think he was with the Cleveland Browns a while back.
Yeah, he was ball boy kind of thing. No, I'm sorry, folks. Special teams player. And Eric Mangini loved this guy. He gave him the green hat or whatever, something like this is special. So, I think what's really interesting about between Schwartz and Bubba is these are potential coaches in waiting if Stefanski can't get it together. I think this is, something that's unspoken but true. And I often think about what's made great head coaches. I think about Bill Cowher. He was a phenomenal special teams coach. Marty Schottenheimer cut his teeth on special teams. I mean, he wasn't a Bill Parcells, but these guys that they don't come up necessarily from the ranks. They're not lifers, but you can see them making huge jumps in their job description, as opposed to somebody who's 20 years just moving up the ladder. He's one of those NFL lifers you see all the time. And then of course when they become head coach, they're totally unprepared, believe it or not, because they're facing decisions they've never had to face before, right? Romeo Crennel or Charlie Weiss with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yep.
Or Eric Mangini, or all these other geniuses out there. I mean, look at, so trying to think of this one other guy who is, Pat Shurmur. Oh my God. He and Adam Gase. I mean, these two guys should be bookends for your library shelf of incompetent coaches, managers, CEOs, whatever. I think about Ken Lay, or as George Bush called him, Kenny Boy, who was the CEO of Enron. And as Enron was literally imploding with stock, if anybody, you've seen the movie Enron, Smartest Guys in the Room.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Schilling and everybody else knew that there were major problems, that it was a house of cards ready to fall. And here comes Kenny Boy walking into Schilling's office with two different swatches of seat covers for the new jet they were buying. Can you spell? Can you spell incompetent with a capital I? And then he goes. He has a press conference, and he's bemoaning the fact that his net worth went from 100 million to 20 million, while people literally lost their savings. And then I think, as a metaphor, all the coaches we've seen do you remember Pat Shurmur on the sidelines when Colt McCoy got his bell rung by that Pittsburgh linebacker?
Oh, yeah.
Wobbling around. Everybody saw it but Pat Shurmur. So, I mean, it boggles the mind how people of this level of incompetency gets to these levels, get promoted. So, but on our last podcast, when we were talking about the defensive coordinator, and I'll repeat this, I was just amazed at how the media, and I'm not one of these people that hates the media, the fake lying news bullshit, but it was unbelievable how every Browns fan in town knew we had a problem with defensive coordinator going back 2 effing years. We knew Joe Woods, or like Hugh Jackson, didn't have what it took. And yet the Mary Kays and all these people following the Browns kept saying, well, I don't know. It's just more than that. Changing out the defensive coordinator is not necessarily going to solve the problem. And then lo and behold, they hire a new defensive coordinator, and it's like everything they were just saying is thrown out the window.
Right.
And now Schwartz says, oh, my God, he's going to bring this. He's going to bring that. He's not going to put up with any shit. Players love playing with him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I guess it does make a difference, right, Brook? Who you have coaching special teams, who you have coaching defensive coordinators, who's coaching the offensive line, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to give Stefanski some props for being a good play caller, and it's going to be interesting watching Jacoby Brissett, how well he fares in Commanders, because he was driving a Ferrari with the Browns offense. I mean, that line, those running backs, Stefanski's play calling, what he was doing, he made Jacoby Brissett look great. Unfortunately, the Browns lost a lot of games because our head coach was too busy looking at his play sheet and not looking at how his other coaches were basically incompetent. Thoughts, Brook?
Yeah, I think the fact that Stefanski and the Browns brought in, because I remember at the time it was between Schwartz and this other young, no experience as a coordinator option, and it's getting a little worried. But I think the fact that they pulled the trigger on Schwartz signals the fact that they would need a grown-up in the room. They need someone who's done this well. And from what I gathered from Schwartz, from past players and coaches, I mean, he doesn't take any shit.
Yeah.
I never got the sense from Joe Woods like that. And hey, I could be dead wrong here, but I just didn't get the feeling seeing him on the sidelines and in his press conferences that, he would call his guys out.
Yeah. Well, it was just too much. I don't know. And first of all, just look at who we signed in free agency.
Yeah.
I mean, who I really feel sorry for is John Johnson. I mean, this guy should have been an all-pro, but he's playing in a Joe Woods defense. Here you got an all pro. He was an all pro. Now, whether he was playing like an all pro the last couple of years, yeah, I'll give you that. But here comes our all pro. You know, Barry picks him up, plugs that hole that we needed in back there with Delpit, who was basically a rookie when John Johnson came in, and all of a sudden you got chaos in the secondary. Guys wide open, you know, and that's on Joe Woods. And then you got Joe Woods having tackling practice in the middle of the season. Joe Woods, we decided we're going to keep it simple. Joe Woods reacting, it's like somebody who's just doesn't know how to run a kitchen. He's probably a great busboy or a great waiter, or maybe he's a good sous chef, but he just didn't know how to run the kitchen. And, fans like us, we started seeing that. So Andrew Barry, probably in concert with Jim Schwartz. Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. Getting your house ready to sell, or you just need some basic repairs, and you can't get anybody to come out or even return your phone call. Then call Riley Painting and Contracting, your home mechanics, for all of your home repair needs, from electrical, plumbing, roof repairs, and getting your house ready to sell. 45 years in the business, a AAA on the Better Business Bureau, and we're on the preferred contractor list in Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights. You can contact us by calling 216-371-8160 and leave a message, and guess what? We'll call you back. I like what they did in free agency. It was good, solid, under the radar people that are going to complement Myles Garrett. It'll be interesting to see who they draft. What's your thoughts on? Well, give me your thoughts on who they signed, free agency.
Yeah, well, I love the Dalvin Tomlinson, the defensive tackle. Big 325-pounder from Minnesota. I love that signing. I mean, the fact that we've signed 5 guys and 4 out of the 5 play on the defense. I mean, that just shows you, what they realized they needed to do. And I think last night too, signing that safety from the Chiefs, I like that too. I mean, here's a guy he knows what a winning culture is supposed to be like.
Right. Same thing with the Eagles.
Yep. And they're young, their first signing, I can't pronounce his name.
Ogo or something.
Agbonia Okoronkwo.
Let's call him the Big O. All right.
Young defensive ends, got a lot of upside from the Texans. I think I was a little worried at first that was their first signing. I was like, all right, who's this guy? And then you saw some of the real big name defensive line guys get signed for these massive contracts. But the guy, Dalvin Tomlinson, I think is super sneaky.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they re-signed Posick.
Yeah. Well, first of all, poor Joe Woods, but let's and also Mike Prefer, our special team coach. I mean, it's one thing to sign players like a John Johnson or these other Pitt players, but then you got to match them up to a coach who knows how to put them in the right scheme. Now you've got this edge rusher, the Big O. I mean, this guy with Myles on the other side and Dalvin putting some pressure up the middle. I would not be surprised if the Browns on a number 2 took another defensive lineman.
Well, I think the one thing what I think is going to happen is Andrew Barry seems to be really good at these trades kind of after free agency. I think trading for a receiver or a linebacker is the next move he's going
Yeah.
to do.
Well, what are they going to do with
Uh,
Anthony Walker? He's coming back from injury. I mean, that's a big question mark, but go ahead, keep going.
yeah, I just think that the two next obvious positions that the Browns need to address, in my opinion, are linebacker and a speedy wide receiver. I do not think we need an overhaul in receivers. I actually like our receiver room, but I definitely think you need someone like an Anthony Schwartz who is more consistent. And I think that's something that the Browns will do via a trade.
I would not be surprised if they bring back OBJ. That would not surprise me. He is still out there.
Well, there's one name that's in the rumor mill, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the fact that multiple people are bringing up his name, Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos,
Yeah.
stud wide receiver. But I'm thinking, why would Sean Payton want to trade their number one wide
Yeah.
receiver?
That's
But
not happening. And Sean Payton's too smart. And plus the fact if we could get Jerry Jeudy from Sean Payton,
that's saying
I want
something.
to look I want to look under the hood. Is there some problems with this guy's head? Is what's his lifestyle like? I mean, there's a lot. That's I don't think that's going to happen. I really think that Deshaun Watson is a billboard come to Cleveland. I mean, I remember back in the day in the 90s, 96, 97 with the Cleveland Indians. After their 95 year, they had a dominating team. They had no problem signing free agents. The free agents wanted to come to the Indians. And I think that's what you may be seeing with Deshaun Watson. You get an OBJ. I mean, really, think Deshaun Watson trying to make something happen and OBJ doing what he does so well, which is freelancing, right? He loves
Yeah.
freelancing. He'll change out. He sees that the fly route's going. He's going. He's open too. And Watson's going to find him. Watson made, I think. Who was that great receiver he had when he was with the Texans?
DeAndre Hopkins.
I mean, really, have you heard of DeAndre Hopkins after Deshaun Watson? I think he had a good year with 1 year with the
Uh, he,
Cardinals.
he
Hey, but
he's
he may
pretty
be
good.
another guy coming back.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I think Hopkins and OBJ are the sexy picks. I know for Hopkins, you're going to have to trade for him. So whatever that compensation is, it's definitely not a first rounder. It's definitely not a second
No, they're not going to
rounder.
trade. They're not going to
You
trade for.
got you got OBJ who's coming off. I think it's his second ACL.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a little. I think the one name that Browns fans should be excited for if it does happen is Mercole Hardman from the Chiefs. He's a free agent. He's like a Tyreek. He's short. He's super fast. And our new safety, who we signed, Juan Thornhill from the Chiefs, he's already starting to recruit, which I love. He's like, hey, man, come play for the dog pound.
yeah,
It's like the Super Bowl. It's great.
yeah. But I think let's get back. Just one thought about OBJ. I get the two ACLs, but I think he'd be on a under the Andrew Berry. That he would be not starting, but he'd be a guy that would be have a certain number of reps per game, and then they're going to get rid of Schwartz.
I think I know where OBJ on because right before I logged on, I was checking Bleacher Report. I think he's going to the Chiefs.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I could see that.
yeah, he'd thrive.
I
Well,
mean, let's be
yeah,
honest. If you're Odell and Patrick Mahomes says, "Hey, I want you here," I'm going there.
yeah, exactly. I get it. I get it. Yeah, you're right. But so the holes to fill in the upcoming draft, linebacker
Check,
and more on the line, defensive line.
definitely.
And that's it. Everything else is
definitely. You need another big defense. Yeah.
yeah. No, they're just going to be, and you know what? There's value from an analytics standpoint. There is a lot of value to be had in the second round for defensive linemen. And you get a run stuffing guy who can bring some pressure up the middle. That is what we need. A young, I always had a problem. Nakamada Sue, what's that guy's name from used to be with the Lion?
Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah. Yeah. You get that water buffalo in the middle to go with that. I mean, really. I mean, we have not had a fearsome foursome, to coin a phrase from the 60s, purple people eaters. We have not had that. And I don't think ever since we had, who was the Fridge's brother? He's the last dominant defensive tackle we've had, right? The Fridge's little brother. Before
not
that,
Danny Shelton?
No, not Danny Shelton. Yep. Yeah. So, but again, well, I think Browns fans you've got to have an organization that's connected from the top. Andrew Berry, Paul DePodesta, his crew, working with not only the head coach, but the head coach connected to his coaches, the Bill Callahans, the Schwartzes, okay, the Bubbas. And then you assemble the players. And that is what the Browns have been lacking for decades. They don't have that connectivity. They've been getting real close, but I think what exposed them last year was real simple. They had very mediocre coaches in key positions, special teams and defensive coordinator. And that cost them easily 4 or 5 games. Easily. They couldn't stop teams. Just all you got to do is look at the Jets game last year. That says it all. And special team failures. So anyways, we're going to have to do our draft show coming up, Brook. So let's plan on talking in the next 2 weeks. Let's start doing our homework. All right. Okay. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts are keep up the good work, Andrew Berry.
Okay, Andrew. This is definitely the year. This is the year. So I think they got a nice solid B+, A- on free agency. Let's see if we can hit some home runs in the draft. All right, we'll pick it up before the draft, Brook. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, everybody. We'll talk to you then.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Browns Anonymous podcast with Mike Riley. We have a lot more content on the way as we get this new podcast started. You can also check out some of our other podcasts like the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast and other new ones that will start soon. On any platform that you find yourself listening to us on, feel free to leave us a like or comment or follow us. It always helps.